that food connects us all. Whoever we are, wherever we're from, whatever our culture, our backgrounds, our age, it brings us together, it makes us happy, and it was the start of our friendship. But we waste it. We all waste it.
And we think also that you can make a difference, one person and one plate at a time, because it all adds up. The only way to change the way we waste food is to understand its value. Okay, so this is what Wasteless tries to do. It is the Cinderella story of food waste. What could have gone into the bin goes to your plate, and it's beautiful and wholesome.
So our Wasteless Suppers are a collaborative platform involving lots of local food businesses coming together to deliver a food surplus feast. And that means we are collecting food surplus, and all our chefs are creating beautiful dishes from food that would otherwise have been wasted or food that's being produced in a wasteless manner.
When you arrived, you had a little taster with some of the relishes that were left over from our wasteless dinner that we're going to talk about, with cheese donated, a similar process to what we did. So I want to take you a little bit through that process. Now imagine a shrivelly, sorry little aubergine at the end of the supermarket aisle or in your fridge. Okay, probably going to end up in your bin because you've forgotten about it, or in the incinerator at the supermarket. Now I would like you to close your eyes and humour me. Now imagine a smoky aubergine dip with pomegranate kernels, grape molasses which are made as a byproduct of the winemaking process, and maybe some little bits of crunchy nuts. Now open your eyes and have a taste. Pass that around. This is typically some of the stuff that we collected at Wasteless, and this is what you would have had, perhaps the canapé and starter when you arrived at our dinner.
So whilst you're enjoying those tasters, how much food do we actually waste? So I have to admit, this is a picture inside of my fridge. I took it whilst I was preparing for this. And look, you got me. There's a really sad Satsuma there. And I know it doesn't look like much to you guys, but I feel really bad about that. But we all do it. It happens sometimes in these situations. It can't be avoided. But it does add up. In the UK, an average household wastes almost £500 worth of food annually, which seems actually absolutely crazy. That is like taking a £10 note once a week and just putting that straight into your bin and not even thinking about it. So that's a crazy amount already. But when you think about that on a global scale, that means that 1/3 of all food that is produced in the world goes to waste. And if you consider all the resources and effort and time that's gone into creating that food, it's really, really worrying. But I'm not here, we're both not here to make you feel guilty about wasting food or to place any blame. We're here to try and show you that we are all in this together. Whether we are a local food business, a big supermarket, a food producer, or everyone as individuals sitting here in this room today, we're all part of this.
It's because Wasteless is a positive movement and a positive story. And part of the reason that it's positive is because it's a story about friendship. And without telling you a little bit about how we met, we can't tell you the story of Wasteless. So in 2013, we were introduced by a mutual friend, Luke Rice, to each other. And we were just trying to figure out what our respective businesses were, a lot of education work, lots of food work. So Luke brought us together to do some very local and small-scale work on food waste reduction and education in Roath, Splot, Adamstown and Pennyland. So we started with roadshows, savoury cakes, soups, cooking workshops that roamed around the area.
So our cook-ups were really good fun. We went into the communities of Roath, Adamstown and Splot, and we hosted these in places like refugee centres, community halls, loads of different places, and this brought together such a wide range of people, a real diversity, and along with them came different ideas about food waste, different inspiration for recipes, and it was a really interesting mix of people. This also meant that our cook-ups turned into skill shares. It wasn't just about people following the recipes that we had provided, it was about them coming in with their little tips and ideas and things that they do at home and sharing them with each other. It was also about this time that we started our first food waste collections from a local supermarket. And this was helping us to understand what types of food are wasted, on a regular basis, whether that's in the supermarkets themselves or at home in our own kitchens. And our participants were bringing along with them to our workshops things that had got to the back of their fridge or things that they weren't sure how to use up and they wanted some inspiration for. So a few things that we found were always commonly wasted was bread. So we've worked out lots of different fun things to do with bread. There was a bread and butter pudding that Lia made with stale bread, but also slightly stale croissants and yum-yums and pretty naughty things. And I'm pretty sure I ate a whole one of those to myself one time. But also there was your Greek scordalia bread dip, which is a really garlicky, lovely bread dip, which goes with anything. And again, doesn't have to go with anything, it just spins right into your mouth. It's so tasty. But these were all experiments that were coming from these cook-ups. We were also really shocked to find that actually a lot of fresh veg goes to waste as well. Not just things like you'd expect, like potatoes and carrots, but aubergines and peppers, things that get bruised easily and might have a shorter shelf life. They were all going to waste. So some of the things we came up with in our cook-ups were beautiful Mexican stews, Moroccan soups, and we were doing tempura veg, and there is no way you would know that this food was previously destined for the bin. It tasted absolutely delicious. And as well as that, during the sharing, we were all learning and cooking together, so learning these new things, also learning how to store food to make it last a bit longer, or different techniques to prepare food to waste less of it. Something I've taken with me is taking root ginger and peeling it with a teaspoon instead of cutting chunks off of it. You waste a lot less. Or maybe not even peeling your veg, just giving it a good scrub. That skin's really good for you. It doesn't need to go to waste. And another favourite of mine is using the rinds of lemon, and instead of throwing them in the bin, making them into preserved lemons and using them in other dishes. So there's lots of things I learned that have now come with me into my kitchen every day. But everyone got stuck in, didn't they?
Yeah. And we met a lot of our volunteers during those cook-ups, and between this period of us developing our skills and learning from the participants and different areas, different communities and different food cultures, and Wasteless, we were commissioned to do to design a street food stall menu that was inspired just with the collections of food waste that we did 2 days before. It was a little bit of a challenge and nerve-wracking. I was nervous, but in October 2017, we sold out our menu on a very rainy day, and people could not believe that what we'd served on that day was actually destined for the bin. Between this event and Wasteless, we did a lot of educational work. What that means for us together is that we loved working together. It worked really well. But we always knew that this is not enough. We are not alone in doing a lot of food waste reduction work in Cardiff. So we wanted to bring those people on board, those local food businesses that do so much, and some of the food businesses that wanted to do more and learn about how to do it. We also knew that staying in our neighbourhood and our local area was not enough. So how about moving a little bit more central and bringing a different audience to the table? The people who created in the food waste reduction community joining us were great, but how about those people who were not really fully aware of the food waste problem, and the food lovers that would join the table on the basis of a menu that we created? So we worked very well on that, and we wanted to elevate the food waste into fine dining. We didn't want just to present a stew, we wanted to make it look beautiful, because we wanted to dispel the association of food waste with food poverty. Now, this is an important message from us. Why is something that we would put in the bin good enough for those in poverty and not good enough for us?
So since October 2017, we have delivered 3 Wasteless Suppers. We have collected 261 kilograms of food, which has been preserved, pickled, cooked, and was created into more than 15 delicious dishes by all the chefs involved.
We involved 18 Wasteless partners, a number that by far exceeded our expectations. These are different business models, from people who were donating the food, the local supermarket, but butchers, Oriel Jones just around the corner, cheese pantry, you tasted their cheese earlier, and we brought a little, like a chef, a preserver from the kitchen, someone who runs a big restaurant like Purple Poppadom, someone who runs a sustainable cafe like Penland Pantry. We brought all these different people together with their different models and ideas and food cultures.
I think in total we fed 135 guests, very generously. It was very prolonged, a lot of these feasts. It was, lots and lots of eating over a decent period of time. And as well as that, over 20 volunteers and staff that took part and helped out at the events.
Our first Wasteless took place in October 2017. It was a fundraiser and a bit of a pilot to see if we actually could do it. We started with 30. We brought a new business, Mezzaluna, to the table. We'd worked with Penland Pantry before. We knew they had that ethos and they could include dishes similar to their menu, but Mezzaluna brought something different, a Middle Eastern food culture that really tells us a story of not to waste anything, from nose to tail, let's say, anything like that. And we worked with an amazingly ethical coffee shop, Little Man, created cocktails. They looked into their bins and created fantastic cocktails from the things that they would have put in their waste bin.
So, we had a little problem with Wasteless too. Does anyone remember the Beast from the East? Now, Wasteless logistics at the best of times are pretty tricky. If you consider it's not just one trip to the supermarket, get all the stuff, cook it up, have the supper club. We had to go to the supermarket at 10 o'clock each night, at least 7 days, maybe 10 days before the event, to ensure that we could collect enough food, enough variety of food to feed the amount of people we wanted to. So you can imagine the snow put a bit of a hindrance on that. However, on a week when everyone was panic buying, there was no bread, the shelves were empty, you'd think we would have had a problem. However, by the Wednesday before the event, we'd already collected 80 kilograms of food surplus. So we had to go ahead. We were not going to cancel. The snow was not going to stop us. That food was our responsibility now, so it was going to go ahead. And somehow it did. Our volunteers really pulled together and got out there and rescued chefs stranded in the snow with all their Scotch eggs. And everyone pulled together and made it happen. And it was a really nice atmosphere. So Wasteless as well, it's not just about the food. We've tried to have a Wasteless ethos to everything we do. These flowers here that decorated the tables, they were rescued. They were going to go in the bin. The napkins were actually made, funny enough, by Charlotte from Twin Made, who's done your little plant hangers as well, out of old shirts and scraps of material. So we had a whole Wasteless ethos, and as Lia mentioned, it even extended to the drinks menu. So the dishes, the fine dining level dishes, and they really were. And I never was failed to be impressed by how the chefs worked together in the kitchen. It really was the epitome of too many chefs in a very tiny space. Chefs that had never met each other before. We were like, that'll be fine, we'll bring them in. But it worked. It somehow worked because everyone had this combined passion. So we had Lorian and Lee from Coco Rico, who produced amazing, beautiful little tartlet canapes and a sourdough ice cream to die for. We had cheese pantry raclette donated, which was grilled. It was all melty and gooey, and we served it with your pickles. And then Laura from Tidy Kitchen did an amazing job of creating 45 perfect Scotch eggs, as well as a terrine for the main. So these dishes came together so beautifully, and we were blown away by their quality, and so were our guests, most of who turned up actually. Again, in the snow, we were doubting it, but I think by then everyone was just really desperate to get out of the house. So also, don't worry, I know what you're thinking. Oh my goodness, they were so busy, they didn't have time to eat themselves. We did. This is the face you make when you try Coco Rico sourdough ice cream and you just keep eating it. Yep.
And on to Wasteless 3, we thought, why stick to 45? Let's challenge ourselves more. And we upped the number of customers, clients, friends to 65, and we started collecting a little bit earlier. We also involved 7 chefs. And that means that there was a lot more work. And I want to tell you a little bit about the logistics now, because this is an endless scale, and this is how we weighed the waste that was given, the food that was given to us every night before washing it, preparing it, recording it, because we also wanted to make sure we understand whether there's any consistency in what we get, so we can tell a story to people and suppliers and retailers and supermarket chains. We also work really hard with these amazing businesses, because imagine those people run day-to-day businesses. They have orders, they have cafes. One of them were opening a second venue the same day, and it was amazing that they supported us. But we had to tell them every day what was happening, what we had every night actually, and the menu started changing and fluctuating, and it was a very creative process. It was beautiful because we started, obviously we always have pickles, but we started with certain dishes, but we ended up with small canapes with little bits of everything that we collected that had fish, meat, and were vegetable ones from the Penland Pantry. We had from Dusty Knuckle, we're going to taste their food later on, and they're truly wasteless. We had a slow roast mutton in salt bread dough and a mushroom ketchup, and the most delicious slaw that was crunchy from this really rare and quite expensive daikon mulli radish, which was fascinating textures. And of course we had purple poppadom involved, who used byproduct of the wasted Selfridges chicken. There was something left, and we took that and we gave it another chance after it was frozen for deep frozen for a while. So the pudding was also very inspiring. So Becca Lia Moutselou, you might have heard of her. She took a lot of this ripened fruit and made 3 amazing desserts, like a sticky clementine mandarin cake, the most delicious ripe banana fall that I have ever had, and donuts, which were quite to die for. We therefore created a platform, not just for the chefs, because it was the first time that I felt we got it really right in giving people the floor to tell the story. So everyone around the table started really thinking about what had gone into their dishes. And that sparked a conversation.
Yeah, so it was really nice. I was front of house at Wasteless, so I was kind of dashing between everyone. But it was really nice to go from the kitchen, which was actually open because we're at Milk and Sugar, seeing all of these chefs working together, smiling, having fun in the kitchen, our wonderful volunteers, to the conversations that were going on around the table. Everyone was sharing their tips, and it was a really inspirational event where people were really taking some of these ideas that we were suggesting and thinking about taking them home to their businesses and their own kitchens. And it was then that we realised Wasteless had become more than just us getting together and putting on events, because that's what we love to do. It had become its own community. There was all these people really ready to start making these wasteless changes, and we were really humbled by the time and skills that people put in for free. Whether it was the volunteers or the chefs, they'd taken a lot. It was a big ask from us to say, please come and help us do this. But everyone wanted to. They were passionate about it, and they wanted to make this work and get this message across. So we would like you to be part of our Wasteless community. So how can you start your Wasteless journey today? You can go home and you can start in your own kitchen. You can rescue that Sansatsuma or save some stained bread. You can start right there, right then. But also you can come to some of the workshops we do. We're running some Wasteless workshops ourselves this year because the project has affected how we implement things in our own business. Or you can even go and do a cooking workshop at Lia's house if you want, which is pretty good fun. So really, we just want to say that by making these small changes to be wasteless, you will inspire change in your friends, your family, your businesses, your own communities. And that's how we can all start to make a difference together.